Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. In this video, we're going to go over one way to say just for reference. And in order to do that, we're going to be enlisting the help of the anime series Bungou Stray Dogs. So the actual phrasing that we have that is going to translate to just for reference in this situation is going to be the words sankou made ni. So if we break down this literally, we have first up just the word sankou, which literally means reference. We have made, which is the particle that basically means until, and then we have again another particle ni to essentially denote that there's going to be a verb action following this phrasing. So if we were to translate this whole phrase here literally, I guess as opposed to just for reference, it would be something along the lines of until the point of reference. Or if we include the verb that's going to follow it, I'm going to do something until the point of reference or until the point that I can use as reference, something along those lines. So now let's just jump into an example sentence so it isn't as vague. So in order to do that, we're going to pull out a scene from Bungou Stray Dogs, the anime, the first episode of the show that is going to be using this phrasing.
僕は嫌ですからね。それってつまり餌ってことじゃないですか。誰がそんな。
報酬出るよ。
報酬？報酬って。いやいやいや。そんなものじゃ釣られませんからね。
ちなみに参考までに聞きますが、その報酬というのはこれくらい。
Okay, so that was actually quite a decent amount of lines. What we're gonna do is we're basically going to ignore the first half of it and the last line of it because those are basically there just to provide the context of the scene. And that context is just basically one of our characters is very unwilling to participate in this scheme because he's going to be used as bait, and then the other character offers a reward, to which he is still pretty skeptical, but he says, just for reference, how much are we talking about with this reward basically? So we have the whole dialogue for this scene written out here on the video and also the translations to the lines. We'll just go through the lines really quick. We'll read through them and say what they mean, but we won't necessarily break them down bit by bit to get a big idea of what they're doing until we get to the sankou made ni, the just for reference part. So the first line is just going to be Boku wa嫌ですからね.
僕は嫌ですからね。
And this is just going to mean I'm not doing this, okay? Right after that, he says, それってつまり餌ってことじゃないですか?
それってつまり餌ってことじゃないですか。
And this will translate to, this just means that you're going to use me as bait, doesn't it? And now we get to the bulk of the situation where the other character says, 報酬出るよ.
誰がそんな。
報酬出るよ。
And this is going to mean there is a reward, to which the other character responds, 報酬って、いやいや、そんなものじゃ釣られませんからね。
報酬？報酬って。いやいやいや。そんなものじゃ釣られませんからね。
And this will translate to, what, a reward? No, you're not going to tempt me with that. And now we get to the key line here, which uses sankou made ni. So let's break down this sentence bit by bit and get a really good idea of what's going on. So he says, ちなみに参考までに聞きますが、その報酬というのは。
ちなみに参考までに聞きますが、その報酬というのはこれくらい。
And this will translate to, by the way, this is just a reference, but this reward, how much are we talking about? So let's break down this sentence bit by bit. First up, we have him stuttering, trying to say ちなみに, which is going to translate to something along the lines of, by the way, or incidentally. Then, lucky us, now we have our grammar pattern. So, sankou made ni, and this is going to mean, of course, up to the point of reference, but we more naturally translate that to just for reference. And so if we look at the word that follows sankou made ni immediately, we see that the verb that's being used here is the verb kiku, which means to listen. So we have kiku in its polite form, kikimasu. So basically so far, sankou made ni kikimasu is going to translate to, I'm going to listen to the point where I can use your words as reference, basically. But of course we also have ga right after kikimasu to mean but. So by the way, this is just for reference, but. Then we follow with simply sono houshuu toいうのは. So sono is going to translate to that, referring to the houshuu, which means reward. So that reward. Translate to English, that probably makes more sense as this reward. Right after that, we have the phrasing toいうのは, and this is something that we haven't covered before, but probably will in the near future. It's a grammar pattern in and of itself, basically. It isn't something to worry about too much here, but basically what it'll translate to is that we're talking about. It's going to be modifying the noun right before it, which is houshuu, and it kind of just emphasizes houshuu. So this reward that we're talking about is kind of what it's doing here. Then we see that right after the particle wa, we have a dot 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 because this is kind of an intentionally left unfinished sentence. So basically what he's doing here is he's saying this reward that we're talking about dot dot dot, and he's leaving the sentence unfinished there so that the other character can finish it for him by telling him how much the reward is. In our translation, we kind of just fill that in for them. We say, how much are we talking about? Then right after that, the other character says kono gurai, which means about this much, and he's holding up a paper with the reward written down. So that's what the situation is. So again, all together, ちなみに参考までに聞きますが、その報酬というのは
ちなみに参考までに聞きますが、その報酬というのはこれくらい。
Then that's going to translate to, by the way, this is just a reference, but this reward, how much are we talking about? And so yeah, hopefully you can understand how sankou made ni doesn't quite literally translate to just for reference, but as you translate it into English, it does pass as a natural translation of just for reference. And so this has been sankou made ni as just for reference with the help of the anime series Bungou Stray Dogs.